Okay, so we're moving on to the next pasuk today. This is Mishlei 14:24. You'll see it's a very strange pasuk. Ateres chachamim oshram, iveles ksilim iveles.
The splendor.
Splendor, interesting.
Crown.
Yeah, the crown.
Okay, I was thinking about
yeah. Ateres tiferes la musevaten.
Yeah,
Tiferet is splendor, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, Tiferes is.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But you might not be far off in terms of an interpretation. But yeah. All right. So the crown of
is their wealth.
Their wealth. Yeah.
And the foolishness of fools is foolishness.
Yeah. The foolishness of fools is foolishness. Okay. So there's no Metzus Tzion.
The biggest question is going to be whether the second half is actually true or not.
Okay, so Sadigon handles this, okay, as one would expect. The crown of the wise is their wealth, and then Kafich adds Sheha'atarahi Atzma Ha'osher. For the crown itself is the wealth. Okay, I'm not sure why he has to add that. Uksilus haksilim hi ivaltam. So he does change the word for foolishness. And the foolishness, okay, ksilut, ksilus, of the fools, ksilim, is their foolishness, and that is ivaltam, ivaltam. So he does make the like he gets rid of the what do you call it? Okay, let's see if you know in English. What do you call a statement like this? The foolishness. Say it. Tautology, right? So he gets rid of the tautology, right? Tautology is a statement that's grammatically correct, but it's not saying anything. Okay, same thing with the Targum. Klila dechakime utrehon. So the crown of the wise is their wealth. V'shav horhin v'shav horhon desachle shatyusahon. So I always forget which Aramaic term corresponds to which one, but shav horisa, I think, or something like that, is foolishness, and then shatyusa comes from like shota or shtus, right? So it also handles that. I'm not gonna look at that. Okay, Art Scroll says the crown of the wise is the wealth, but the foolishness of fools is but foolishness. Okay, so they can't help themselves but adding the word but, right? Even though that's not in there, they don't even put it in brackets. I forgot to put in reverse. An altar, surprise, surprise, says that this is an incorrect text. Okay, he says the crown of the wise is their shrewdness, and the garland of dullards is folly. He says the received text reads Ashram, their wealth, an improbable candidate as the crown of the wise. That's how I imagine him saying it. The Septuagint more plausibly has Orma, shrewdness. Okay, and again, I'm going to keep on saying this until it gets instilled in people that. In light of my readings from Rabbi Amnon Bazak's Ad Hayom Hazeh, then we should not dismiss the Septuagint outright, because even though it's not the Masoretic text, the Masoretic text was created by comparing many of the extant versions of Tanakh, of which there were many, and then like going with the majority. So the Septuagint was older than the Masoretic text by hundreds of years. And so the Septuagint might reflect a more authoritative reading in terms of what the original was, but we obviously rely on the Masoretic text for halacha, and we shouldn't just dismiss the Masoretic text because it doesn't make sense to us. But the Septuagint the Septuagint and the Targumim are a repository for and like the Syriac Torah and the Syriac translation, I think, is one, and then the Samaritan Torah, these are all things that were around at the time of, that these, that authoritative Sofrim were engaged in the work of passing the torch of Chsav, but they were outvoted by the final Masoretic text. Yeah, okay. And then he also says the garland, this received text reads the folly of dullards as folly. Instead of this tautology, this translation, following many critics, reads liviat, garland of, instead of ivelet, folly. So he messes around with the letters or says. Now it's interesting, again, this is what Alter does here. In the first modification, he quotes the Septuagint. Here he just says it doesn't make sense, and then he just makes up his own thing, so and even he quotes critics, but yes, we're gonna conveniently ignore Alter and then go right to the analysis. Okay, so obviously the questions are, let's just translate his astonishment into questions, right? Is really the crown of the wise is their wealth and not their wisdom, right? Or something like that. That seems weird. And then how do we make sense of the seeming tautology in the second half? Right. What else?
What does it mean for the crown to be their wealth?
Yeah. So what is the metaphor of crown in this context, such that their crown is their wealth?
How can something, what would it mean for something other than wealth to be wealth?
Something other than wealth to be wealth?
Meaning, I think there's certain things that I'd say certain nouns.
Yeah.
That. Okay, I guess I'm not clear about the kind of shot of the pasuk.
Yeah.
Is it saying that the chachamim are wealthy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Okay, because alternative read of the pasuk
Yeah.
is that saying that the unstated noun that the crown's coming.
The unstated noun that what?
The crown's coming.
Okay.
That noun is their wealth. Is like
Terrace. I don't know if you could read it that way. I just don't. It's not computing. Okay, yeah, yeah. Definitely, plain shot is the crown. What is the crown of the Chachamim? It's their wealth. Right? Yeah. All right.
What's going on in the second half of the puzzle then?
Yeah, that's what we're asking. How do we make sense of the tautology? Yeah. You can ask the question of this is a basic question, but how do the Chachamim become wealthy? Okay, and then you could say wealthy. Is this true? Is this always true?
That's a serious question.
Yeah.
Well, so what are the opposites? Meaning, one part of the puzzle seems to be talking about foolishness, and the other side is talking about wealth. Like how is normally we don't.
So what is the relation between the two halves? Okay, they don't seem like opposites, right? The first half is talking about wealth, and the second is talking about foolishness.
It kind of reminds me of Monday night. The way it's written out.
I'm trying to remember what is possible.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but I just remember.
Yeah. Also, you can say also the second half doesn't talk about any crown or related mashal, right?
Yeah, poverty.
Yeah. Isaac.
In the spirit of altar, I'd like to propose an emendation to the first half of the pasuk.
Oh. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Why doesn't the first half say chachmas, or I guess I'll say it the other way because it's just as good. Chachmas chachamim chachmasam. Yeah.
I mean,
chachmasam. Yeah.
Which kind of brings me to my next question: is what's the subject of the puzzle?
Yeah. So what is the subject of the pasuk? I'll also say what's the havamina, I think, right? What is the havamina on each half?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the havamina on the first half is clear, right? That they're actually, I guess that's kind of what I'm asking here. What is the hava amina? And then what is the havamina of the second half also? Also, I'll put this here. What is the hava amina?
What's there really going on?
What was that?
On the first question, what's there really? What are you saying really for? Like, meaning, is it? Did you qualify with the second question? Or?
Yeah, meaning it's expressing astonishment. The word really is expressing really.
I know. I know what.
Oh,
it
yeah,
means.
yeah.
I'm talking about what is the really? Like what is?
Meaning
the crown of the wise is the really.
What was that?
What's the question about?
The question is about why we are identifying their wealth as their crown and not something more chachma related. Yeah,
so that was the second part. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And I think we have to ask about the practical application here also, right? Who is the audience? And what is the practical application? Yeah. Okay. So what do you say?
I have a thought.
Okay.
This pasuk is actually a havamina.
This is a false pasuk. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That who are like, people see someone who's wealthy and they're like, oh, he must be wise. So say that's the hobby of the first step.
Yeah.
Like is that the like crown they'll have is that they're gonna be wealthy, and so you can like the crown is like almost like a external way, like big visible way of determining that.
Right.
So it's you like who still very wealthy,
Right.
like people like go to like wealthy people for advice, like
right.
The things that wealth that like billionaire CEOs say are taken as like this is like this is chachma because someone who's wealthy is saying it.
Yeah.
So that's the first half.
Right. Yeah. So that's I think we see this or saw this, still see this play out with I think that was one of the big things that that Donald Trump relied on to get elected, right? Is that people assumed that because he was wealthy, which is a questionable assumption, is that they assumed that he must be knowledgeable in politics also, and then also this is a line. This is one of the few lines I know from Fiddler on the Roof. If I were a rich man, because my dad used to quote it, is that when you're rich, they think you really know. So that's yeah. Okay, so that's
what's the crown in what you're saying?
The crown is that is like kind of like a more like showy, visible aspect of person. Like let's say a person's a king,
when you see a crown on a person, you know that they're a king.
Yeah.
When you see wealth on a person, you know that they're wise, according to this false havamina.
So is it false? What do you mean by false havamina? Like what?
So there's a whole category of psukim that are expressing false ideas. Okay. It's expressing what the fool thinks as if it is true. And I think the first example that we came across in my YBT shiur was right. Is that an 18?
Yeah,
probably. Hon. Yeah, 1811. Hon asher kiria suzo ukuchoma nisgava b'maskiso. The wealth of a rich person is his strong fortress, and like a tall wall is his. I forgot what maskiso is. Yeah, I know it means like lattice work, but I forgot what the thing is. So that I think we found confirmation. Let's see if I highlighted something. Yeah. Let's see if this is much. Yeah. He says, so the in Kaspi on that says, after mentioning the previous pasuk, what is truly a fortress of strength, that's the tzaddik force field, right? Migdal Oz Shem Hashem, Bo Yarus Tzaddik V'Niskav, a fortress of, where tower of strength is the name of God. The tzaddik runs in it or into it and is protected. So then, so that's the true fortress. Yizkor Atamashu Migdal Oz Lahamon Haschalim. Now it mentions what is a tower of strength for the foolish masses. So this is a genre of psukim. So Isaac is saying that this is not stating a truth; it's stating a falsehood to make us aware of the.
So basically, okay, because the reason why I'm asking is because it seems like the way Isaac's saying it, like the first half pasuk is negative.
So, well, right? It is. It's expressing the bad decision, meaning the bad decision or a bad decision in the pasuk. You might end up saying that both of them are bad, but the bad decision in the pasuk is to be duped into thinking that the crown of someone indicates their that wealth is a crown of wisdom. Yeah.
Okay, because like let's assume it's positive for a second because the crown of the wealth it's like a good thing. The crown of the wealth is
definitely, but he's not taking it that way. So we'll explore that later. Yeah. Right.
The clarity on that.
Yeah. So what's the second half now? That's harder. It's always gonna be hard, but yeah. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. This person, so it's another, it's another false hope.
Yeah.
So it's that foolishness is going to be obviously foolishness. Like, oh, I'm going to see foolishness and think it's foolishness. And it's not as apparent as people.
Okay, right.
Like obviously, the foolishness of fools is foolishness.
Right. Likewise, people falsely think that foolishness is easy to spot, that's like, of course, the foolishness of fools will manifest as obvious foolishness. Yeah, right, but that's not always the case. Yeah, I saw, I'm not a fan. It's a thing that certain talk show hosts do where they like they go up to like average people on the street and ask them questions to make them look like idiots,
Yeah, like the Hamas protesters.
Yeah, right. So I'm not a fan of that whole genre of like, expose, but I did see a good one yesterday that Jimmy Kimmel went up to a bunch of people who identified themselves as Trump supporters, okay? And then said, who did you vote for? And they said Trump. And then the interviewer said, I'm going to read you things that Joe Biden has done, and I want your opinion on it. So they read them, like certain statements or certain factoids that Joe Biden did, he whatever, it doesn't really matter. And obviously the people had something like really, really negative to say. And then the interviewer said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I got my notes mixed up. Can we start the interview again?" And then they read the exact statement in the exact same words, but said Trump. And the people had completely different like responses and were like not aware of the contradiction. Like it was just, so it's like even I think that does expose the point of it was to expose the bias that people have, right? But like it's not even a person their own foolishness they don't see, it's not obvious to them.
But I wonder if the same guy
Especially
I wonder if the same guy did it for the other side, because I did see one for the other side also.
Yeah.
I'm
sure it goes both ways.
Yeah, it's for sure both ways,
Yeah.
That's funny.
Right. Okay, I think that's a good interpretation of the pasuk. So what the practical application is easy then, right? Which is that to recognize that the actual causes of wealth might not be correlated or might be inversely correlated, even in some cases, to chachma, right? And to not attribute superior knowledge or authority to someone based on their wealth. And likewise, it's harder on the second half, right? Because the first half is giving you a false sign, saying don't mistake this for this. But the second half is saying, second half is warning you to it's not giving you a false flag, right?
Yeah, but I think I think the message of the pasuk is that chachamim and ksilim are harder than you think to.
Okay, I think I do agree with you, but I think as a pasuk, it would be a tighter explanation if you said that the second half is talking about the same subject. So I think it's saying that don't mistake wealth for chachma. In fact, there could be subtle or behind the scenes foolishness lurking behind that same person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe
and that would explain why it doesn't use any of the same mashalim or subject words in the second half, because it's assuming that you're going to apply it from the first half.
Yeah.
Okay. In other words, I'm going to just tack on here possible narrower second half is rather when you see this wealth, instead of looking at it as a sign of wisdom, you should dig deeper to try to find foolishness and not assume that the foolishness will be manifest, right? And that's especially true in a world of, and I'm not advocating any particular economic system here, but in a world where there can be so in the olden days, okay, if you see a guy who has 20 cattle, you could see his wealth. Here you can see someone who has a really, really fancy house or a fancy car or like a big business that's getting a bunch of profit, and they could be bankrupt, so you can't even trust your eyes in terms of you can't even, in other words, the first half is saying don't look at that fancy house as a sign of wisdom. You should even suspect maybe it's a sign of foolishness. Maybe this person went all in on getting an expensive house before they actually made sure that they have money. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what I'm doing with the pasuk methodologically?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a different narrower.
Okay, narrower than mine, or narrow in a different direction alongside?
Narrow in a different direction. That doesn't exactly correspond to the first half.
Okay, sure.
I think the flag.
Yeah.
That's raising is when people see something that seems foolish.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, yeah, this guy's a fool.
Yeah.
Even if, but like where it's something where like, clearly the person wouldn't be doing it if it was actually foolish.
Right.
Like
yeah.
But like they're like, okay, fine. Like if like they take their immediate impression of foolishness. And
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, this is foolishness.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's people are very quick to diagnose fools. Right. Yeah, I like that for the second half as well. And then right. Yeah, I think our reading is better, but yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yeah. All right. New
I have
approach.
no idea.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to say that the crown of the wise, it's really more for the first half, but I would say maybe the crown is really it's kind of like it's something you show off.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's not a bad thing. If you really look at all the the backstory of like how this individual, how this wise man, became who he is, there's probably a lot of hard work, a lot of grunt work, a lot of trials, errors, that led up to his wealth, right?
Yeah.
And I think some people they kind of want either they don't show that because it makes them look weak or whatever it is, or it's just not relevant to who they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, no, it is relevant. So to say that is the crown, that really is a crown, because that's really who defines, that's really the person that makes you today.
Okay, so you're saying that when you see wealth, then that often is the product of going through a lot of decision making that utilizes chokmah. Is that what you're? Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are times you just win the lottery.
Yeah, right.
But
right. So now, yeah. See, this is an interesting thing, because I feel like the first half is so much easier to interpret, and then the test is the second half, right? So I think that is good for the first half.
Yeah.
I was going to say something similar to the first half, which is, there are a lot of pasukim in Mishlei and in Koheles that talk about how chokmah does give you wealth. I mean, that's one of the advertising points that Shlomo has for chokmah is, what's the phrase in Perek Gimel? Orach yamim liyamina u'smola osher v'chavod, right? So length of days is at its right hand, at the right hand of chachma, and then wealth and honor are at the left, or the one that Rebbe always likes quoting is betela chachma betela kesef. He says it in that way on all the Koheles shiurim, that that wealth is in the shadow of chachma. It's like if you got chachma, you're going to get that, you're going to get the wealth. So I was going to say that the crown is, so what really makes the king a king is something that you can't see, right? So in many cases, it's like hereditary, or if a person merits the kingship somehow, then it's that. But the crown is the visible symbol that everyone can see and relate to. So with chachamim, you can't necessarily see their chachma, but if they are a successful businessman, that's a manifestation of chachma that the hamon can see. Yeah. So and the reason why I'm slightly, I think it's similar to what you're saying, but slightly different, because I'm and maybe you just gave the particular example of life experience and stuff, but I'm saying that I think I'm starting with the crown and saying you should look at the crown and infer all the back history, that this came about through chachma.
Yes.
I don't think it's
it's not drastically.
It's not drastically different.
Focusing on, you should advertise all the back.
Yeah, right. That's the part that I'm not so sure about. I'm treating it as you're treating it as though the audience is the chachamim. I'm treating it as the audience is someone who is neither a chacham nor a ksil, because that's how it seems like the pasuk is talking.
I don't necessarily want to treat just for the chachamim, because I wanted the audience to be people who are on the rise, who are on the rise. Yeah, to look for. So if you see a crown, you should look for what's behind the scenes.
I see what you're saying. Right. Okay. All right. I think we still have similar approaches, so I don't want to write anything yet. Let's figure out the second half based on this.
So the second half, I don't know. As I was thinking about it, maybe you could say that it's a little dumb. I don't know. It's pretty fucking, but the foolishness like the foolishness, like everything that leads up to the fool is foolish. There's like nothing there.
I mean,
Versus,
look,
I don't know.
I sympathize with Art Scroll's translation of the foolishness of fools is but foolishness, and I think that that's a good template for the second half. Like that, like the Havamina is that the foolishness of fools is something else, and Kamash Malan is just foolishness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually want to interpret Ariel's idea based on my idea.
Okay.
That I'd say what I was talking about was like person who's has like a shallow like interpretation of what's going on.
Yeah.
And what Ariel's talking about is when you don't like is when you actually like look into it.
Yeah.
So for the first half, it's you see someone who's wealthy and you look into their actions and,
Yeah.
and it's like a signpost that this person might be a chacham.
Yeah.
And you figure out that they're chacham.
Right.
So maybe for the second half, it's saying when you look into the seal's foolishness, it's just going to be foolishness. Yeah.
Okay. I hear.
Like
Right.
Like you can have something where you look into someone's things that's pure foolish, and there's actually like some hidden chacham behind it. But
Right.
with the seal, you're going to look into it, and it's just foolishness.
Okay, so let me try this. Wealth can be a visible manifestation of of chachma. Okay, so when you see that crown, you should look into it. You should look into the person to see what chachma they used to obtain that wealth. Okay, and you might find that it's not like Isaac said. Okay, but if you see foolishness, like genuine, Mishleic, shallow thinking, and superficial like decision making, then there is not going to be anything behind that other than the foolishness. So in other words, so what is the exact warning here, right? Like, can we come up with an example of this, like where the person might have a havamina otherwise? Because that's my sticking point here. Yeah.
Also, I would say we're saying the second half differently.
Yeah.
But sometimes you see something that looks like shallow thinking, and deeper. But if you look into the shallow thinking, it's actually just going to be shallow through.
Okay. Right. Yeah. I should add in sealing.
It's funny. I'm like
Yeah.
I'm like 60% away finished from like Elon Musk's book. I'm like, I gotta tell you, man, that story. You read about it.
Yeah.
Like that story when he was with Joe Rogan smoking a joint. Like that was like it's funny. Like a guy like him. Like I don't know if he's like. I don't think you could call him a fool. I think that like, there may be some things that he does you may be perceiving as foolishness.
Yeah.
But like, he has like. Because he's also very innocent too, but like
right, and part of it also is the autism, like like he does seem to be very bad at predicting how people are going to react to things, and
it's just I don't know why did I bring up because you perceive
Asperger's,
foolishness,
that was the word I was looking for.
But like really, it's like it's not even like his intent is not even to be foolish. It's just that.
There are definitely like hybrid cases like that. Yeah. I think the thing that slightly bothers me about this approach is not bothers me. Sorry, that makes the other approach preferable is okay. Let me be very clear. This is not a problem with the pasuk. This is why I would lean towards our other interpretations. Is this approach that we're developing right now does presuppose that you already know how to diagnose a ksil, and that you're just being told to like, look at their evelis in a certain way. Like this presupposes a lot more Mishlei knowledge than the other one. So I think that's why I'm happier with the second one. All right, because we only have one. Yeah, you have another approach? Oh, sure, yeah.
So I want to read both Ateret and Oshram a little bit more metaphorically.
Yeah.
So the Ateret is what shows a person, like the standard people, that this person's a chacham.
Yeah.
And wealth I'm viewing more as an ability to acquire things.
Okay.
So it's the fact that the chacham has this standard and this perception by others that they're a chacham that allows him to develop, and for people to bring him unique bits of knowledge, and for him to open up doors for him to achieve knowledge, Whereas the fool, all he gets through doing his foolishness is more foolishness, because people are going to see him as a fool,
Yeah.
and so they're going to treat him with foolishness, and it's just going to reinforce that foolishness.
Okay. So the Chacham's wealth is what allows him to like influence people for the good, is what you're saying, right? But the fool only gains like doesn't gain anything except like reinforcing people's perception of him as a fool and like spreading the foolishness, I think, right?
Yeah.
The foolishness.
Yeah, and I think maybe in terms of who it's talking to,
Yeah.
it could potentially be the Chacham. I think that there is a inclination of a Chacham to not use his Chacham, his status of a Chacham to, lord it over people or to open up doors for himself. And sometimes the Chacham actually really needs to do that in order to develop further.
Right. Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's good. Yeah. That's also what I got a little bit of a vibe from that from your first idea as well, that it's talking to a Chacham who is reluctant or doesn't think it's proper to like necessarily like put on a display of his wealth. I mean, this is an idea in, there's a machlokus about, or the Gemara says, in order to be a Navi, you have to be a Chacham, a Gibor, and an Osher, and so the Rambam takes that in the way that Pirkei Avos defines it, that that Osher means Sameach B'chalko, but there are Rishonim who take that literally, that you have to actually be wealthy. And the question is, well, why would that be? And because in order to be in a position of a Navi, to influence people, you have to have a certain, what was that? Yeah, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was like crazy wealthy, right? I think, and there's several people like that. Okay, so in the interest of time, let's look at some meforshim here. Matsudas David says, Ashram im matzu osher, if you find wealth, me'ateres osam, it crowns them. Ki yukar lakol tifartam unidivos liban. Oh, look, Isaac uses your word. Their splendor will be recognizable to everyone, and their generosity. Besitam le'evyonim dema hamachzor uvapanim yafos. Interesting. So he's saying it's not their wealth; it's how they use their wealth, right? The fact that they give it to the poor. And they do so, they give the right amount and they're generous.
Makes sense. So when a Chacham has wealth, then the wealth crowns them.
Exactly, right.
But when someone else has wealth, right, it's just, it's not necessarily.
Yeah, so let's. I think he's probably going to say Ivelis is also in that vein. Rotzalomar, but Maisa Ivaltam Yukar Ivelis Hatamuna Belibam. In their act of foolishness, it will be recognized the foolishness that's hidden in their heart. Since all their actions are foolishness, you can be sure that there's a lot more where that came from. Right? There's a lot more foolishness there. And it'll be manifest in certain times. It's funny, he does not take it in the way that Isaac and I thought he was going to take it. Like you would think he's saying, you could see from the way that there is hold on. I think in Koheles, not Ivelis, but in Koheles, the word foolishness, I think like for sichlus, he uses the word sichlus to mean wealth in certain cases. So I thought he was going to say that like you can, that the Ivelis in the second half is being used equivocally, that the foolish expenditure of their money indicates their actual foolishness. I'm trying to think if there's a way to say this in English. I can construct something, I'm sure, but there are certain words that we use. Anyway, I'm sure it'll hit me later on. So that's what I would have said. In other words, when you see these people like spending their money on foolish things, then you could be sure that that is a sign of foolishness there. Yeah. So I like this derech of like approaching it in terms of how it gets out of the first awkward question about this is really their wealth. But I want to see if there's anyone more similar to the way we were saying. Rביnu Yona, Ateres Chachamim Shehi Ashram, the crown of the wise, which is their wealth, he Ivelis Haksilim. Ooh, it is the foolishness of the Ksilim. Okay, so that is an alternate reading. I just want to write this here. Okay, so Rביnu Yona's translation is the wealth. Sorry, the wealth of the wise, which is their crown, is the foolishness of the fools. So that is injecting wealth into the second half of the pasuk.
Yeah, I feel like he's taking the move that Matsudas made, kind of.
Yeah.
And developing in the way that it.
Yeah, but it's a smooth reading.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
By the way, just a methodological point with Rabbeinu Yona, because he's not doing it here. Often Rabbeinu Yona saves his reading for the pasuk for the end. Okay, like you'll see him do, if he gives like grammatical or shirashim related things, he'll usually say it at the very end. So if you're ever struggling through Rabbeinu Yona on Mishlei, be sure to read it all the way to the end before you go back and work on it, because he usually does not do this. But here he like sets us up. Okay, and then Iveles, Ksilim Iveles, Hishanus Halashan Chizuk Hadavar. See? Just tell that to alter. Hear that, alter? That sometimes repetition of words is used to strengthen and to emphasize the idea. Kesher. Oh, it's a redundancy. It doesn't make sense. This must not be accurate. Va'inyan ki the idea, yeah. Ki ha'osher ateres ha'chachamim. Wealth is the crown of the wise. Ki chachmas hamiskin bezuya udevarav einam nishma'im. The chachma of the poor youth is degraded and his words are not heeded. Va'chachamim. But the wise, be'es hatzlicham be'osher v'chavod, when they succeed in wealth and honor, ta'uz yadam lanase l'tzadikim. That's interesting. Okay, so apparently there's girsa difficulties here. So our girsa says their hand will be strengthened to elevate tzaddikim. Okay, but then there's another girsa that says to love tzaddikim. Okay, either way it's weird. This sounds like Sean's approach, that and to awaken fear of Hashem and his service in the world. And they use it for influence for the good. I don't know why he ties it to tzaddikim, but whatever. And to degrade the evil and the flatterers and to raise the head of truth. Okay. Achein ha'osher l'ksilim hi ikar ivaltam mikama panim. Therefore, indeed, wealth for fools is the root of their foolishness, mikama panim, in many aspects. Ki az yarum levavam, it's going to make them haughtier. V'gam ha'am yikashlu v'yichabdum v'yashuvu rabim l'kisla pir osam yedei ha'ksilus goveres. Oh, a pun. Okay, so he says, the people will stumble and will honor them, and many will turn to kisla, I think is false hope. Okay, it's a pun on ksilos, on foolishness. Bir osam, when they see yada ksilos goveres, when they see that the fool has the upper hand. Vehim yarimu karen l'rashaim, they will raise the pride of the rashaim. Gam tihi el yadam l'malos cheftam ba'averos u'b'chataim, and it'll enable them to do their averos and their chataim. Gam yesh levayer od. So in other words, this is the closest to Sean's approach of all of them. Wait, what did you say for? Oh yeah. This is the closest to yours, right? Is that the chachamim will use their wealth for the good. It'll like fuel their splendor, and with the fools it'll fuel their own folly and then spreading folly to others, and people will like admire them for that stuff. An example that comes to mind, just because it was in the press a couple of weeks ago, you see that one Jewish woman who donated $1 billion to Einstein Medical School to pay for everyone.
Yeah,
right. She said, like it was an auditorium full of students, and she said, I'm paying for the rest of your entire medical school is gonna be tuition free. Like it was this incredible act of like generosity. And then you look at people who spend $1 billion on a piece of art, or on like throwing a huge party like these. It's just like it's insane, Gam yesh levayer od lashon hamikra al ha'inyan hazeh. You could also explain the language of the pasuk to be as follows: Iveles ksilim ha'ashiram, the foolishness of fools in their making themselves wealthy, or they're becoming wealthy, as he iveles gemora. That is real foolishness. Okay, so he's saying the foolishness of fools in wealth is real foolishness. Are you talking? Okay, so that's the same idea, but just different reading of the pasuk. Okay. He's talking the Farish, Kisofa Mikra Lahashlim. Okay, I actually want to write that also. This is Rabbeinu Yona 2. Rabbeinu Yona 2. The wealth of the wise is their crown, but the foolishness of fools is real foolishness. Okay, meaning it's going to be all those negative qualities you mentioned earlier.
You missed part about wealth.
The wealth of the wise is their crown, but the foolishness. Did you say wealth? Oh yeah, you're right. The foolishness of fools in their wealth is real foolishness. Yeah. Okay. Now new idea. You could also say that the end of the pasuk is completing the reasoning of the beginning. V'haraya kilo amar v'ivelis ksilim bevav. See, I noticed this when you translated it, Isaac. Yeah, you put a vav in there. Yeah, right. Uval haros shahadavar kain. It's coming to show that this is the case. Ateres hachachamim ashram, that the crown of the wise is their wealth. Ki az ivelis haksilim v'rishasam techashev ivelis gemura neged b'nei adam. That the foolishness of the fools and their wickedness will be considered complete foolishness by people. Ki b'sheves hachachamim b'shefel, when the chachamim sit in a low position, lo tivada ha'ivelis ba'aretz. Foolishness will not be made known in the earth, in the land. Ki yivchuru rabim b'derech haresha utilahem lachachma. Because many people will choose the wicked path, and it'll be considered wise for them. What is he saying here? I don't know if he was saying about. I don't know what he's saying there. Let's just look at the Me'iry. Me'iry says, we're not going to finish this. A crown glorifies its wearer. It creates a distinction between the one who wears it and other people. It's known that in the midos of the chacham, that just like the chacham is differentiated from other people in his wisdom and his character traits, he also needs to be differentiated in his other actions. I think he's quoting the Rambam here. Yeah, this is Rambam Hilchos Talmud Torah Perek Vav. Amruch Zal, or maybe Hey. Amru Zal, no, not Hey, or Vav. Dalid?
It's Hilchos Deos Perek.
Oh, Perek, I was right the first time. Was that the first thing? Whatever. Oh, Deos, you're right. That's why, because I'm going through the prakim in my mind. I'm like, no, that's about honoring your Rebbe. Yeah, Deos. Amru Zal, Kol Talmid Chacham Shenidmsa Revav Bevigdo Chayav Misa. Any Talmid Chacham who stain is found on his garment is liable for death. V'chein harbe kiyotze b'dvarim elu. I actually made a decision based on this, an expensive decision based on this this week. My glasses have been, the paint has been chipped for a very long time, and I'm like, it doesn't matter to me. But I finally bought like new glasses, which are on their way because I'm like, might be a chil Hashem. V'chein harbe kiyotze b'dvarim elu. Let me underscore expensive glasses. Yeah. Yadua she'ef shar hisyakro b'dvarim elu v'kiyotz behem. It's impossible. She'ef shar hisyakro b'dvarim elu v'kiyotz behem ela im kain b'osher b'kidei ha'istapkus. You can't buy expensive glasses unless you have enough money, right? That's what he's saying. News to me. V'chein saref la'ater asmo b'midas hasrara v'yikaras ruach ma'at. And therefore, a person needs to crown himself with the midah of. Soror is usually translated as authority, but I think it means like socioeconomic status and some form of yikaras ruach. I think it means like treating yourself well, like monetarily, a little bit. So that his honor is not diminished in the eyes of the masses. This is like what you were saying, and they consider him like one of them. That's the thing that a Talmid Chacham has to have 1/64th part, right? That's eighth of an eighth, right? 1/64th part haughtiness. Okay, so it doesn't mean the meat of haughtiness. It means he has to act in a way that is not total shiftless ruach. And I don't know what that means. Okay, I can't look that up now. Palomar, Kamosha Hakash. Oh, he says, just like the kash shomer shibolis, just like the straw or the husk shields the grain. Kain zos hamida shomeres hachacham. This mida will shield the chacham. Shelo yazono mimenu ene hahamon. That the eyes of the masses will not stray from him. V'takel ma'alaso beinehim, and his esteem will be lightened in their eyes. So that's why it says it's giving a matir, right? Saying that the wealth of the crown of Chachamim is their wealth. that through this they have a place. In this they have a place to adorn themselves. So that the adornment will be a crown for them. So that it'll differentiate them from other people. Okay, he has a lot more explanations which I want to read, but we don't have time today. All right, good idea. So the summary here is we had Isaac's idea, which I like the best, which is that this is giving you a false flag, that don't mistake wealth for chachma, and instead treat it as a possible sign of foolishness, because foolishness is not as obvious as you would think it is. Then we had this combo approach, which is that wealth can be a visible sign of chachma. So when you see that crown, you should investigate to see what chachma they used. But the foolishness will not, will just bring up other foolishness. You'll just find foolishness there. You'll find more where that came from. Sean's idea and Rabbeinu Yona's idea, first idea, is that that wealth will enable the chachamim. Chachamim will use the wealth to influence others towards emulating them and doing good things, and the fools will use it for the opposite. And the Meiri is saying that Meiri is saying like it's a matir for a chacham to adorn himself somewhat in order to differentiate himself from the foolish hamon, which we didn't get a chance to see this his second half. Probably that the fools adorn themselves in ways that differentiate them for the bad, right? That it makes people like see them and then think all these false thoughts that we had. Okay, all right, let's stop for today. All right, good pasuk. All right, nice. We're really on